Alright, so I'm sure some of you probably recognize this rifle, and if you don't, I'll go ahead and tell you what it is. This is my Howa 1500 bolt-action rifle. I have an earlier video on this, a review on the rifle as it comes to you from the factory. Now in that video I talked about some things that I didn't really have the items with me at the time to back up my statements. So today that's what I'm going to do. I've had the rifle for some more time. I've done some stuff to it. I've done more stuff with it. So I'm going to talk about what I've done to it, what I've done with it, to back up the points I made in my previous video. Alright, so one of the things that I talked about in my video that did spark some interesting comments was the nature of accessories. And I did say that because it wasn't an as well-known design as, say, a Winchester 70 or a Remington 700, it's just not as well-known here in the States. There weren't quite as many things available for it, and I still stand by that. But I also stand by the statement I made in that video that if you're willing to look hard enough and you really enjoy this platform, you can find stuff. And you'll probably notice, the first thing you'll notice is this black thing right here sticking out the bottom of the gun, and this is a magazine. I changed out by myself the bottom metal of the original rifle with this magazine fed system. Purchased from Legacy Arms. They're the importer and distributor for the Howa 1500 here in the United States. And you can literally just go on their website and order it from them, or you can find it elsewhere. I got this. I got the bottom metal and a 10-round magazine for about $70 all told. Now that's an amazing deal, all things considered, especially since it's drop-in. You don't have to do anything to the rifle. You literally take the screws out of the old bottom metal, take the old bottom metal out, put the new bottom metal in, torque them down. Now you do need a torque wrench, or someone who knows, or someone you know who has a torque wrench, to torque the two action screws to their proper poundage. Otherwise, your rifle's not gonna operate properly. So if you don't have one of those, that is an extra expense to do this. But there's no gunsmithing. You don't need to. There's no 6-week waiting line to have your stock custom inletted to fit their bottom metal. Now, one thing that I will say is that this is a polymer. It's not actually a bottom metal. It replaces the original bottom metal was metal. This is polymer. So that may be part of where the cost savings is. This is just easier to make and quicker to make, and probably uses less and less expensive material than the aluminum or the steel bottom metals that you can get out there. It also uses a polymer magazine. Now the other nice thing about this, I don't remember the price offhand, but they are not expensive. I mean, most other drop box magazine bottom metals, for basically every other action out there, the magazines, at least the 10-rounders, are going to cost you $70 because they use the Accuracy International mags, which are a metal mag. They're great mags, nothing wrong with them. They're just expensive, and this isn't, or at least not as expensive. Now obviously it's not going to be as durable as those really well-known, really well-respected Accuracy International mags, but they hold 10 rounds, they're light, they work, they lock in simply and easily. They just go right into the bottom of the gun like that, and the lockup is pretty good. They're not gonna fall out accidentally. Now, one problem with this, other than the fact that it's polymer, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but people who are really hardcore about their precision rifles, who really want to make sure that they're hyper accurate, you're really going to want to get a metal bottom metal. But the other problem with this is the placement of the magazine release. Most others, the magazine release is right here, and with this one it's in the front. Now that does, in my opinion, make it very easy to use, very easy to actuate, but that also makes it easy to accidentally hit. If you're putting the rifle up on some sandbags or something, and you push the rifle too far forward, you can't hit that, and, well, out comes your magazine. So I would certainly not consider this combat ready, not something you'd want to use on the most serious of guns, but for the average day civilian usage. For shooting paper, probably for hunting, as long as you're aware of that, this is no problem. It holds 10 rounds, like I said before. They also have 5-round versions, and they come compatible to a myriad of calibers. This one, 243, 7mm, or 308. So these mags are compatible with multiple calibers. You're not stuck to just one. It's not like if you have a 308, well, you can only use the 308 mags, or if you have some other caliber that's in the same action length, that's pretty much what you're getting. You're just getting the magazine that fits your action length, and most of the rounds that Howa chambers that action length for will work with this magazine. If you live in a state where your magazine capacities are limited, they are available in a 5-round version. So there are 5-round mags and there are 10-round mags. I've been very happy with this system. It's inexpensive, it's easy to install yourself, there's no custom inletting. It's just really simple for a normal person to use. And I've been very happy with it. It's performed very well for me. It's fed very reliably. And if you have a Howa, I would highly suggest this. And that's another advantage that Howa has over rifles. This is Howa specific. No other rifle that I'm aware of can use this system. So if you buy a Howa and you want to have a drop box magazine that'll hold a good number of rounds for a relatively inexpensive price, this is the way you're going to go. And for basically every other manufacturer, if they don't come with a drop box magazine system, you're probably going to spend about $200 to $300 to make that happen. Now, as I'm sure you've probably noticed, the drop box magazine isn't the only thing that I've changed about this rifle. I've also put it in a new stock. Now, it came in a Hogue rubberized overmold stock, and I actually really liked that stock. I don't really think there was anything particularly wrong with it, to be honest. It was very comfortable to use, but as you saw in the earlier video, it had flex, and actually it had a lot of flex. And it was because it was a polymer stock, and it only had pillars to bed. This is a Bell & Carlson Monte Carlo style stock, so it has an angled cheek piece, and the idea is that when the rifle fires, because of the angle of that cheek piece, it actually comes away from your face instead of recoiling into it, so it's supposed to make firing more comfortable. It has a very nice palm swell, a very nice grip. It is a fiberglass stock, and I got it in this really nice OD green with this black spider web all over it, and it looks really nice. It makes the rifle look very cool. It's very comfortable to shoot. It has a full-length bedding block in it. So there's a hunk of aluminum that starts here in the grip, moves into where it bolts into the action, and then travels all the way forward into the front of the stock. So it's very rigid, it's very tough. There is no flex at all in this stock. There's actually more flex in the barrel. There's more flex in the barrel than there is in the stock. It also comes with a pretty nice recoil pad. Now, I will say one thing. I actually find this stock less comfortable to shoot than the Hogue. And I think that was partially because the Hogue had a softer and I think more effective butt pad. But I also think that part of the reason why I got the Hogue is part of the reason why it was more comfortable, because it had flex in it. I think what was happening was every time I shot the gun, the stock itself was actually flexing, and it was absorbing recoil, and that made it very comfortable to shoot, just not as accurate. So I've enjoyed this stock very much. It cost me, I believe, around $200. The rifle dropped right in. I did have some clearance issues. If you'll look closely here, you'll notice that the paint is gone. Well, that's because I had to actually sort of, I guess in a way, custom inlet this stock. The bottom of the striker right here, when the rifle was torqued into the stock, was interfering right there, and I had to take a knife to it and scrape that out so it would clear. But once that cleared, I had no problems there. I also had issues with the safety clearing. There was not enough room in the slot for the safety for it to go all the way to the rear in its third position to lock the bolt out. So I did have to, once again, I took my knife to it and I just scraped it out until there was room. And all told, the combination of that took me about, I don't know, an hour or two to get it to fit. But once it did, it ran without interference. So, I mean, that is one thing to be careful of. You might have to do a little bit of work to get the stock to fit perfectly. But I don't really consider that to be that much of an issue. The stock bolted down perfectly. It's very rigidly attached to the stock, thanks to that very rigid bedding block. And I do feel like this stock has noticeably and significantly increased the consistency of the rifle and decreased the size of the groups. So I'm very happy with this purchase. It's a significant upgrade to what I was shooting before. And if you have a Howa, I highly suggest this stock. I highly suggest Bell & Carlson. They make good stocks for decent prices. Because you know what, I just ain't got the money to afford a Manners or any of those other really expensive stock makers. At least not right now. Maybe in the future. But right now, Bell & Carlson is keeping me very happy. Alright, now for one last thing in my original video, I talked about the accuracy of the rifle. I said that I had fired 1 MOA groups before, but I didn't have any targets at the time to prove it. I hadn't had the thought to save the targets or to take pictures at the time that those targets were fired. Well, now I've got some targets. So I'm going to show you 3 1 MOA groups fired at 100 yards. So here is the first group. Now this is actually just over 1 MOA, but not by a whole lot. That's the third round right there. The rounds strung vertically. So the first round landed here, and then the 1-2 rounds were right here at the bottom. So that's more like, I don't know, like 1 1/4 MOA, but it's a very tight, very nice group. Here's the third group. Now that is a very true 1 MOA. That's 3 rounds. That's a very consistent group. And here I had 2 rounds left, so I fired them back to back, and that's actually 2 rounds. That's 2 rounds right on top of each other. Now I do have some other targets that I have taken pictures of that I'll try to roll into the video to continue to support my claims. But I mean, there it is. That's 1 MOA. Now I mean, that was fired out of this gun sled or gun rest or whatever you want to call it. So this isn't necessarily representative of my accuracy, my shooting skills, but it is representative of the mechanical accuracy of the rifle. So it's a very accurate rifle. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. If you're not shooting accurately, I mean, it's probably you. I don't mean to be mean, but that's what the rifle is capable of, and it's capable of doing it multiple times in a row, because I did it right there. Now the other target that I hopefully will be rolling in to show you, I did shoot just from the bipod. I'm very proud of that target. If I can find the pictures, I'll roll those in for you. But yeah, I mean, this is my update video, and I guess it's also sort of a review of the stock and the Dropbox magazine. I continue to absolutely love this rifle. I couldn't be happier with it. My next project is that once I get the money together, I am going to get rebarreled. I'm going to get rebarreled with a thicker barrel, because as accurate as the stock barrel is, it's a sporter barrel. It's thin, it gets hot, and it starts to string the rounds. As long as you're slow and you let the barrel keep cool, it's more than accurate. If you're a hunter, there's really no reason or need to change the barrel. It'll do the job for you. But I'm doing a lot of bench shooting, a lot of shooting lots of rounds in a short period of time, so I really want that thicker barrel. I also want to get it, when the new barrel, I want to have the muzzle threaded, and I'm planning to attach some kind of muzzle brake to it. Not because 308 is a brutal round, it's not going to hurt to shoot, but like I said, I'm shooting a lot of rounds. I don't usually have this sled available to me. This was sort of a one-off. We'll see if I don't know if I'll be able to use it again. And shooting 20-40 rounds of that DAG surplus 308 that I've been shooting. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. This was shot with surplus ammo. This was not shot with some hyper amazing $1 a round ammo. This was shot with 50 cent a round, 30-year-old German DAG surplus. So that's surplus ammo. In fact, here's the box, and there's the round. So there it is right there. 7.62 by 51 DAG ammo. These are the rounds I've been shooting. They're consistent, they're accurate, they fly straight and true. They're NATO, they're true 5.5, they're true 7.62 NATO rounds. They've got a lot of punch behind them. And if you can get your hands on this ammo, I highly suggest it. You're gonna like it, or at least I certainly have. So reasonably, if you're shooting match ammo, that's probably going to get even better. But once again, I love this rifle. I feel like it's a superior rifle to many of the other rifles in the market, especially in its price range and probably several above it. So if you can get your hands on a Howa, I would grab one, because they are excellent, excellent, excellent rifles.